Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our last class. Is this really 7 weeks? So next week is the 8th week, but no class because if you get all of your final exam stuff turned in, hopefully by, is it Monday or Tuesday? Can't remember. Whatever the day is, Monday. Okay. If you need extra time till Tuesday, I totally get it because I'm gonna need extra time to be catching up on grading all of your videos and everything and all your discussions. So yes, if we need the extra time, that's what we have the whole week for. Thursday is the official end of the semester. Hold on, one more person's here. Hello, welcome, Vanessa. Give you a minute to connect the audio. Great. So next week, last week, final exam, try to get everything in by Monday. If you need the extra time, give yourselves till Tuesday. I have until Thursday to get final grades in. I did manage to contact my dean, who forwarded information to the next person, to the next person, to somebody in the registrars. And I got contacted by somebody named Raquel. Don't know who she is, but she said the easiest way to do this is, she said, send her your names and your student ID numbers. She will go ahead into the system and she will pre-approve or do something in the system so that you can all go ahead and register for ASL 212. So that should take care of most of you if you haven't already been able to sign in. So you may want to try. I just sent the information last night. So hopefully she took her time to do it today, and it should definitely be in the system and ready by tomorrow, hopefully. Again, if it's not, don't worry. Still, we'll keep this as our Zoom room. So next week, in 2 weeks, when we officially start the next semester, half semester, it's so confusing. The next half 8 week semester, we'll still have our meeting on Thursday night this time. Will that work out for your schedules? I hope. For most of you, it should. Okay. So we'll keep this as our meeting time so that you can let me know, hey, I did get in or I didn't get in. You also can still email me. You can send me a remind message. I'm going to set up a different remind group for that second class. It'll be the ASL 212. So the rest of the code to join will be the same, but I just changed the 211 to 212. But yeah, you can always join there. Even if you can't quite get into Canvas and figure out, we'll make it work. You'll also have to join to go React again. Yeah, so I've got to get that stuff set up too and get it all ready. It's almost ready. What questions do we have about that, about registration? Anything?
I had reached out to my counselor, like you had suggested, and I reached out to Troy, and he was able to sign me up. So I'm already registered.
Yay, somebody managed to figure it out because she doesn't have a dunderfuck for a counselor. Thank you. I swear, I mean, when they're getting paid, what, $18 an hour, you kind of expect what you get. So, yay, good for Troy. Troy knows how to do it. Troy knows the answer. Awesome. If you everybody else has Troy as an academic counselor, cool. If not, ask to transfer to Troy. Troy will help you. But yes, do try to figure it out. If you can't and you're still having issues, let me know. I can connect you directly with Raquel, put you on an email strand, and then you can fight through it and figure it out. Christian, we'll talk about your situation after class. Mea culpa, mea culpa, mea culpa. We'll figure something out. But Christian's just one of those. I want to do it all right now, and I'm going to triple, quadruple, quintuple major. So yes, we'll help you out. Don't worry. A lot of eagerness. We like to see that. Okay. What do we think about the you want to be an interpreter book? Now that we've pretty much finished most of it, I hope you should have gotten through it, or at least faked it. Did it give you the information that you needed? Mostly.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of information that I never even thought about.
Still confused though on a lot of stuff? Probably. Yeah. Okay. I get
Very
it.
informative. Yeah, it had like so much information, so much different things that I didn't even know that interpreters go through or what we need to do and things that we're going to experience. So it just gave us a really good outlook in what to expect and different scenarios and stuff. So I found it really helpful. Just really opened my eyes to different things.
Cool. Good. Anything else? Anybody else want to make comments, or are you just finally happy to be done with it? For the second class, ASL 212, this is the book you'll be using. It's decision making, ethics, blah, blah, blah. You can see my lights on my wall that I use. But it's ethics, professionalism, and decision making for sign language interpreters. I'll email the information out so you have it. But this one you'll probably have to get through Amazon, and it's, I want to say like $19. It might have gone up to 23, who knows? But it's pretty cheap. It's kind of thin. It's got 154 pages, 164 pages in it. Good information. Some of it's going to be similar to what you've already learned, but some of it is going to be brand new and talking about some of the ethical stuff. What Melissa just mentioned about, I didn't realize interpreters go through that. This book is going to have some scenarios in it that will blow your lids. It really will. It will shock you to the core. That happens. People do that. Interpreters act that way. Interpreters, what? And not just that, but deaf people, they expect you to do, really? No. Yeah, it happens. So we will see a lot of that in this book for next semester. Well, next class. Interesting information. Did anyone have any questions about the oppression or the influence of culture on communication from last week? Since I kind of briefly went over that with after Oscar was done. No? Okay.
I wasn't in the meeting last class, but now that you're mentioning about the 211 class, I did wanted to register, but because of the requirements and all that, but I'm sure I can message Raquel and sign up. I seen Esmeralda, she said that she was able to do it right now, so I'm gonna try and see if I could do it too.
Yeah, maybe you can sign up tonight, right now. Who knows? I can't see what you're doing on the other screens. By all means, do what you need to do. You're all adults. I trust you. So as this is week 7, we were talking about interpreting versus transliterating. Have you had a chance to look over anything in that module yet, or has your life been crazy? If your life's been crazy, I totally get it. Family, kids, homework, other classes, I get it can be rough. So we know what interpreting is, right? Interpreting is English, ASL, or seeing ASL and speaking English. So it's two different languages. Transliterating, sometimes you'll see TL or just the index fingers transliterating. And that's different from a translation, which is just a single movement. But transliterating is from one language to the same language, but in a different mode. And I know that doesn't make any sense. It originally came from what people did when they translated Greek. So we all know Greek has its own alphabet, but you can still pronounce it. And when you pronounce the Greek, some of the words kind of sound like words you would understand in English. So you could write it in Greek, or you could write it in Roman letters, and it would still be the same concept. It would still be pronounced the same. It would just be written differently. So two different languages written there. That was the original version that linguists said was transliterating. Well, when people started doing research on ASL, they had to figure out, so not all deaf people do this ASL thing. Sometimes they do kind of more of a signed English thing. What do we call that? Do we call it Siglish? Do we call it C? Do we call it exact signing? What name do we have? And linguists decided if it's English on the hands as opposed to English on the tongue, they were going to call it transliterating. It might not be the best way to use and borrow that definition from a wide field that pretty much covers all languages to just sign language. But ASL linguists, they have that ego and they went ahead and said, we're going to do it. We're just going to call it transliterating. Okay, so they called it transliterating. And now it's when you see signed English, when you see a person who is signing English and maybe they are talking at the same time. Oh, you start to recognize kind of like Spanglish, isn't it? You're mixing two different languages, you're replacing words. Sometimes you're adding in stuff that's more Spanish, sometimes you're adding in stuff that's more English, but people who are around you, they get it. And sometimes they respond the same way. So we know that from Spanglish. Transliterating is kind of like the same idea of ASL mixed with English. That's the easiest way to put it. But not just to say that it's like this crazy, unknown, wild system. There are rules that you would have to follow because sign language can move in only certain ways. English can only go linearly from the beginning of the sentence to the end of the sentence. You can't really jump around and do some of the fun stuff in ASL that you would do. So in ASL, remember it's boy, girl, two of them meet. Hi, how you? Hi, how you? Fine. Okay, bye. And they part. So we can use our space in ASL to explain all of that. When we're transliterating, if we're supposed to be following English word order, if it's the boy met the girl and he said hi, she replied, hello, how are you? He said, fine. She said, okay. Then the two of them left in different directions. See how that follows English word order? Now, was it clear visually? Deaf people say yes, that would be very clear. But we couldn't set it up as that was more ASL. Why? Was I exactly following English word order? No. Was I mouthing English words all the time? No. Was I using my space? So some of the things that we know from ASL, the use of space, facial features, non-manuals on the lips, classifiers, setting up the nouns like the subject and the object first, then adding in the verb later, or if it's maybe a directional verb. I walked up to her, she walked up to me. So difference in directional verb. All of that stuff is ASL. When we see it or when we want to interpret it, transliterate it, we can't always use that space. So this section, this module was supposed to talk to you all about what the difference is, what some of the features are of ASL interpreting compared to transliterating, and hopefully give you a feel of, oh, probably what most of you have been signing all along has been more transliterating, more signed English. Probably. Most of the time, people who are hearing that learn sign language, they start off with English because their brains think in English. So they just follow word order and think that will be very clear. Sometimes that's not. Most of the time, it's not, unfortunately. When we sign and we talk at the same time, we seem to think that everything we're communicating is very clear, but we're missing a lot, like that mouthing, like the use of space, like listing, like adding in classifiers, etc. Lots of stuff is missing. And we don't realize it until the deaf person looks at us and says, when they tell you to turn off your lips, turn off your voice, sign it, that means stop all the English. Okay, so let me show you. I think it should be right. I hope it's from the module. I think so. Let's see. Share my screen. Do you see this? Yeah, all nice and big. Let me make it bigger. We're going to move forward through this. The beginning of transliteration. So really the basics back in 1965, U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare said, we're going to publish a book about interpreting for deaf people. 65. I mean, think about that. 60 years ago. So within the lifetime of your grandparents, probably, right? That's not a long time ago. So what you are trying to get in on here, as far as the interpreting field, still in its infancy, just began. So keep in the back of your minds, this is still a growing field. There's a lot of wiggle room, a lot of growth, a lot of abilities to figure out what you want, but also at the same time, some of the rules that we discuss, they're not hard and set in stone. They're very flexible. Anyway, they talked about translating compared to transliterating. Interesting. They didn't even have that word back then, honestly. So now we go to 1974, where Robert Ingram, he proposed a transliteration would be a better term than translation, because it's spoken modality, speaking English, to signed English, but still following the same language. It's kind of what I just explained. Okay, then we see here in 1979, they decided to add it in, interpreter slash transliterator. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so we have the sign systems. You've heard of C1, haven't you? Maybe. So it's Seeing Essential English. It was originally created so they could teach deaf adults who had mental challenges, mental retardation. That was yes, they used the R word back there. This is an older book, I apologize, but that word is there, and that's what they called them back then. This was in 66 that they created this whole sign system. For that, each specific part of a word has a sign itself. So they'll say things like but, fly, as opposed to butterfly. I don't know why they break it up piece by piece, but they seem to think that's easier. I don't know why. It's not for us, not as English speaking people, unless we play around with the language a lot and we kind of make a lot of puns. It doesn't make sense. Then there was C2, and that came up in 1969 from people in Southern California. Hello. You didn't even know this. C2 started in our backyards, started at CSUN. And it was signing exact English. Before it was seeing essential English. Now it's signing exact English, C2. This time they would have an allow butterfly. But if they had this rule of three thing, so you could, if it had the same spelling, if it had the same, not meaning, but sound, and then another reason, which I'm completely losing right now, but you can read about it. It's in the module. But the whole point of it was one word, one sign. So an equivalent. That's where some of you might have learned try with T's. Anybody learn try? Yeah. Or very. Did anybody learn very with V's? Try comes from the ASL sign A hand shape. Try, effort, attempt, all of those, if you think about them, English has a variety of words, but the basic concept is the same. But because of this C2 system, to make sure we have one sign, one word, well, we have this. That should be attempt because of the A's. T should be try. E should be effort. Interesting. Not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that is one system that was created. It got taught to deaf students, so they grew up with it, and then they go out in the world, and that's how they sign to other deaf people that they meet, to other interpreters that they meet. And when they go to college, they expect interpreters there to sign like the teachers that they had who signed with C2. So now we kind of have this self-propagating need for C2 interpreters because the deaf are learning C2 from their deaf teachers or their hearing teachers in English class. Yeah, it just creates and produces more and more of itself over time. What else? Might be hard to read these, I apologize. I will run in the 800-meter race. Okay. Sue will run for class president. Would we use this sign for run? I mean, we as ASL interpreters probably wouldn't. I would hope not. I mean, is she running towards the president? No, she wants to become the president. She's running. So what we would do as ASL interpreters, we think, English might have run, run with different meanings. So I'm going to assign the meaning. Sue will run for class president. That's more clear. This system, though, says one word, one sign. Interesting. So even if the meaning is different, Sue will run for class president would be correct if you use this system. Weird, huh? Or my nose will run if I catch a cold. What do you think about that? Does that make you feel all weird? Yeah. Bleh. My nose will run if I catch a cold. That's ASL, well, ASL concepts, but following English word order. Again, the whole point of this, you probably have learned some about ASL sentence structure, and that's good. You probably have seen a variety of examples, and that's good. But you probably haven't had the opportunity to really compare the languages to see why you're signing one thing one way, but another sign is being offered as should be replaced and used in a completely different sentence, but the same idea or the same word. So that's why this portion should help. And if you take a linguistics class, the comparative linguistics class, I think sometimes Dana teaches it. Sometimes Brian might teach it. Who else? Who? Oh, Andy. Andy Lim.
Yeah, Andy Lim.
Okay. Is he teaching it now?
Yes.
Does this stuff make sense? Does it match what he's taught?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Vanessa. Melissa's signing it for you and you're voicing for her. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing because that's kind of bleh. Stop sharing. Oh, I can see all of you. You can read all this stuff in the module. You're not expected to become experts in transliteration, don't worry. But because C2 started here, CSUN, Southern California, LAUSD, guess what? If you become an interpreter, when you become an interpreter, you are going to meet a lot of deaf that will sign exact English to you because their assumption Your hearing, you must know signed English. So when you meet deaf people in Southern California, they will sign exact English to you and expect you to understand everything that they are signing. But they won't be voicing it. And that will throw you off because you're watching, expecting ASL rhythm, expecting ASL signs, classifiers, etc. And it's not there. It's all here. So one of the things that I tell you as feedback on your videos and things, when you're finger spelling, you normally face to face might finger spell here, which is fine face to face. But on a camera, notice what happens. It's like right in your face. So I need to pull it back a little bit and I need to use my shoulder as my background for my finger spelling. And then it's much more clear as if we were face to face and we could adjust it. So do remember where your camera is set at all times. That's your deaf person, their eyes. Don't ever spell to them that way. You don't want them to do it to you, right? Hi, my name is. That's really annoying. So don't do it first. Deaf won't follow. What other questions do you have about transliterating? Anything come up or any confusion? Or are you still reading through some of it? There's a lot of information there. If you don't get through it all, don't worry too much. I don't even think the transliteration stuff shows up on the test, on the final exam. It won't be there. So if you don't get a chance to read through it all and you're trying your best to catch up, some of you might be work on catching up. Get that stuff done first.
Professor, I had a question. I was looking at the finals module, and it says something about a written portion. We're gonna have to do some writing in there also, or is it just an
I call it written, but it's multiple choice, that part.
Oh.
The test, the written test. If we were still face to face, you would probably have a paper given out, but yeah,
Okay.
we're not. Now it's just multiple choice, true, false, easier.
Okay.
And we save trees, right? We kill oil and gasoline so we can make electricity, but we save trees. Yay. Anyone else have other questions or comments? Did my question or my response to you, Melissa, did that make sense? Did you see my response about?
I did. Yeah, so when I was reviewing it and I'm like, okay, I understood it, but then afterwards, like after the video where it said summarize, breathe, and I was like, wait a minute, so am I doing I know it said simultaneously, but then so that's why I kind of confused the end portion when it says summarize. I'm like, oh, should I summarize now after the video? But yeah. And then I noticed my video is still off because I don't record it, I record it separately from the Go React, so that's why it's kind of off, but
Don't worry about it.
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to control that as far as like where one starts and where one, yeah, I'll get it.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, you're yes. Thank you for. I'm sorry I didn't respond back, but yes, you answered my question. Even on the Remind app too. So I've been looking around also for that too because it's just very interesting.
So Melissa had a question too about, we had talked 2 weeks ago, I believe, about idioms in ASL. And I'm guessing most of you have probably never learned much, if at all, anything about idioms, correct? Don't know what that means, right? So English, we have idioms. Other languages have idioms. It's just a way of mixing words together so that the phrase itself or the sentence itself has a completely different meaning. So the easiest one is to say, raining cats and dogs. When that happens, do you look up to see cats and dogs falling from the sky? No, you know that it means, oh, water is like pouring down, right? That's what you understand that to mean in English. Well, ASL has its own type of idioms. Some of them are based on kind of ha ha ha, the sign. Sometimes it's about a cultural thing. Sometimes it's just arbitrary. That's what they do, and it means this, and you have to use it for that. So some examples. You've seen finish before, right? And you know that finish means literally, like in English, you're done with something. But what if I tell you, does that mean I'm done with something or you're done with something? It's kind of used in an idiomatic sense. It means stop it, cut it out, fish, fish. One that I showed 2 weeks ago was train gone, sorry. So that's a phrase and it simply means you missed the boat. Whatever had happened, you had to be there. Sorry, you weren't there, you missed it. So the train, when it's gone, you can't back it up on the track. It's gone. You missed the train. So train gone, sorry. Means too bad, so sad. Wah, wah, wah. Some other ones that you might see, you know, touch finish, right? Does anybody remember touch finish? Did you learn that in ASL 2, I hope? Or ASL 3 when you were learning the country signs? No? So touch finish, we know touch means to literally put your hand on something, but touch finish is used to mean I have been to that location already. So, hey, France, you touch finish? Have you been to France? It's almost always used for land and property, a specific location. It's not that book, touch finish? No, you would ask, have you read it, the book? But touch finish, you got off that plane, you kissed the ground, you're there, you made it. So those are some of the basic ones, general ones we'll see quite often. There's a lot of other ones. Some deaf people kind of borrow English ideas and they think if I sign it this way, it's idiomatic. And there's not that many in ASL by itself, but there's a lot of idiomatic language usage. So just like this whole whatever bit that I sign can mean something different. Yeah. So that's interesting. You can always do more research on it. There's a lot of videos. You just go to YouTube and do searches or Vimeo and things. They've got them up there. Good. Anything else that I can help you with for the final? It shouldn't surprise you. It is cumulative test, the written multiple choice part from all the other chapters that you've read and everything, not the transliterating part. And then the video portion is almost exactly like the midterm, where you have a video that you have to watch and then you have to either sign or voice. I can't remember which. I think you're voicing it. Yeah. And that's it. And then you're done with the class. Oh, and you have your discussion boards and everything. Hopefully you're keeping up on those. They're really not that hard, right? I hope. Yep. That's it. That's all I've got. And if you came to see Kathy or Scrid, you'll get some extra points added on at the end of the semester. I'll put them into your participation grade. And then if you came for Oscar, you also will get some participation points for that as well. That's all for me. I'm done. You all did
Professor.
wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
Professor, may I have Raquel's information so I can email her about adding the class?
Yes. You couldn't get in, huh?
Mm-mm.
Let's see.
Or if you like, you can email me tomorrow or something. I'll be on campus tomorrow also, so I'm gonna
She's just R. Flores
okay.
at riohondo.edu.
Oh, okay, got it.
And you can, yeah, let her know you're in ASL 211. You're trying to get into ASL 212. Yeah, hopefully that
Okay.
will work.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're
See you
welcome.
in 2 weeks.
I know, it's gonna
Thank you,
come up
Professor.
fast. Take care.
Right. Bye, everyone. Have a nice night. Have a great night. Bye.
Hi, everyone.